Yo, what's up everybody? Geno here. Today I'm talking about Hexen Beyond Heretic. Following Heretic, Raven Software would take the modified Doom engine and really push it to its limits, creating something beyond Doom, yet not quite Quake. Taking that vertical look and inventory system from Heretic, Hexen adds more complex architecture, an RPG class system, and a jump button. It also changes up the formula greatly. Instead of having the game progress through episodes containing subsequent missions, Hexen has 5 major levels, hubs as people call them, each containing a hub that branches off into several sub-levels for you to explore, hit switches in, or find keys. This makes the experience of Hexen very unique compared to the rest of the Doom catalog I've already ran through, and that gothic dark fantasy art style gives this game some real charm and personality, and I think it pulls it off here even better than Heretic did. I like Heretic, but it kind of felt like a downgrade from Doom, to be honest, in terms of aesthetics. The gameplay is fun, but in Doom you have these sick-ass space demons that you're ripping and tearing through. In Heretic, it's just golems, undead creatures, very D&D, but still just kind of seems less badass. But here in Hexen, that not-for-kids vibe is back. The monster designs here are just better. The main enemies you'll be encountering throughout the game are, first up, the Afrit, small little gargoyle dudes like we saw in Heretic, but now they're on fire and more aggressive than before. Also, the hulking Etten. These brutes are ogres ready to crush your skull with their maces, and they have 2 heads, one with his mind on the money and the other with his mind on the streets. Another entry in the bestiary is the Chaos Serpent. Remember what Disparrow rode in Heretic? Here, his mount is a common enemy. The world of Hexen is a cold and unforgiving mistress. Centaur warriors equipped with swords and shields will block attacks from the front, which can repel projectiles back towards the player. People often cry about these guys because you have to engage with their design. Wah, I have to wait until they're done guarding? Why can't I just spam the same attacks and kill them the same way as literally every other enemy in the game? Yeah, they're not that bad. Sometimes, you just have to wait a few seconds to hit them, or find a way to penetrate their shields. Basically, every action game ever has this, by the way. Some enemies, you have to wait for their guard to come down. This is a pretty good roster with nice diversity, I'd say, and I really like the enemy designs themselves. And the sprite work is beautiful. Raven Software nailed that. Here, I feel like Hexen is more than just a boomer shooter. It's almost like an action RPG with the level design of a dungeon crawler or an adventure game. The plot picks up where Heretic left off. The 3 Serpent Riders took over the world of Heretic, and the 2 stronger Serpent Riders left that realm. Well, the second of the 3 arrived in the world of Hexen, Kronos. A human world with stronger magic than that of the elven world in Heretic. The humans have built a very strict yet orderly society segregated into 3 factions. The Legion, a military force led by Marshal Zedek. The Arcanum, the center of learning all things magical led by the Archmage Menelkir. And lastly, its Church, which acts as a bridge between the two in order to deliver balance while furthering its own goals under the leadership of the Grand Patriarch Traductus. These 3 rulers of Kronos were the first to be corrupted by Korax the Serpent Rider. Using their new powers he granted them, they brought about the dominion of Korax over every man. Only 3 men remained free from Korax's spell: the warrior Baratus, Daedalon the Mage, and Parias the Cleric. These 3 men vowed to liberate the world from Korax. The task may be difficult, but through the will and determination of 3 men, each with the spirit of a hero, Kronos will be free. Before playing the game, you get to choose between 3 classes representing the 3 heroes of the story: Warrior, Cleric, or Mage. The version I'm playing on allows you to switch between these 3 throughout your playthrough. You just go up to like this book in the hubs. You can change whenever. In the original, I believe you were locked to your choice throughout the entire campaign, meaning you needed 3 playthroughs to experience each playstyle. Now, I've seen videos say you have to play the game 3 times to get the full experience, but that's just not correct, even in those older versions. How different is the game between the 3 classes? Not very. I mean, the game itself is the same, it's just different playstyles you're going to experience. It is good for a replayability factor, but if you told me you only played Hexen once and you were class locked, I wouldn't dismiss you as not truly beating the game. If you beat the game as the mage, you get it. You don't need to replay as the warrior and cleric to truly understand it. That said, in the new versions, hey, play a couple, play a hub as the mage. Maybe you're not really liking it. Well, you can just reclass. And even if you are liking it, well, you can just check out the other ones to see how they are. Now, the classes themselves have a couple differences. First, of course, is their arsenal. The warrior uses his fist to punch out all beasts in his path. The cleric has a mace and a shield, and the mage has a wand similar to the one in Heretic, however, it has infinite ammo. They also have a stat spread. The warrior will have higher defense, he does more damage, he runs faster, he jumps farther. The mage is more frail, slower, doesn't do as much damage, can't jump as far, and the cleric is the middle ground of the two stats-wise. Now, the cleric's starting weapon, the Mace of Contrition, is notoriously bad. It's the worst of both worlds between the warrior and the mage. The warrior's close range but powerful, taking out foes in few hits. The mage takes more hits to fell a beast, but you can play cautiously from a distance. The cleric needs to be up and close, but still doesn't deal enough damage to take enemies out quickly, unless you get good with the shield. The shield doesn't work well to block hits since it is very committal, and you will take damage if you don't time your block properly. If you're mid-swing and try to shield, you have to wait through the swing animation, then the shield animation before you're blocking, and you are still going to take damage. The correct way to use the shield is to time it properly with enemy hits. Normally an Etten takes about 5 or so hits with the mace to die, but if you parry them with the shield, it knocks them back and you can crit them, killing them in one swing. This combat rewards good tech while is very punishing for bad players, which makes it the hardest class, but also the most rewarding if you get good at it. The three classes also use flechettes differently. The warrior chucks them like a Molotov cocktail, exploding on impact. The mage will place them before dashing away from his ticking time bomb, and the cleric will toss them, causing a poisonous gas effect, damaging nearby foes, and if you walk through it, it'll hurt you as well. The first stage is a map titled Winnowing Hall. This is a great opening stage. Just like Hangar for Doom and Entryway for Doom 2, the opening shot is up at some beautiful architecture of a courtyard at the entrance of the titular hall. Right in front of you, there's a vase showing that there is destructible environments in this game, and more so with the stained glass, which you can break to obtain blue vials for healing. And when you open the door, it doesn't just slide up like in Doom, no. It's actually 3D modeled. I was legitimately impressed by this. As you explore through the hall, the stage is pretty standard for the Doom formula we all know and love. Run through the environment, searching for switches or keys. After you obtain that first key of the map, it unlocks the second half of the stage. As we backtrack into the courtyard, we find a door that we can unlock using the key we found. Through here are plenty of enemies guarding a bell tower. After ascending to the top, the player tolls the bell, which acts as a switch unlocking the stage's exit. A very simple map that gets us ready for what's to come. I love Winnowing Hall. Honestly, wish there were more of these standalone maps throughout the game.
Greetings, mortal. Are you ready to die?
Well, Doc, I wouldn't be honest if I told you no. Sometimes life sucks. I feel like I'm working my life away as time passes me by. I often think to myself, what's even the point? Another 40, 50 years of waking up just to clock in, clock out, come home, catch a few winks of sleep before I get to wake up and do it all over again. Some days, I start to lose the strength to go on. I'll think about the cool games coming out I won't get to play if I were to end it all now, or what memes I haven't gotten to see yet and I'll never get to save to my phone. That gives me the courage and strength to keep going just a little while longer, but I'm not sure how many more times I'll be able to talk myself down from the ledge. I probably only got a couple more MGS 5s or Kingdom Hearts 3s left in me before I just lose the will to go on. So, am I ready to die? Not yet. But some days it's hard.
Okay.
The next map is when we get to the main format for this game's level structure. Instead of progressing through the game in an episodic format wherein each episode features 8 stages to be played through subsequently, in Hexen, you get a central hub with multiple sublevels that branch off. These sublevels are not self-contained, in the sense that you'll grab a key in one sublevel that's often going to be needed for progression throughout another sublevel. This leads to backtracking and having to return to sublevels to make more progress. Each hub will require a certain number of puzzle switches to be pulled in order to unlock the exit of the hub to progress onto the next level. 7 portals is the first hub, and it's easy enough. The hub is pretty small and has several golden doors barring their titular portals. Through each portal is a very short and simple sublevel, nothing really too complex here. The main theme here is the elements, ice, fire, and steel. Plenty of rooms have lava floors as hazard tiles, the wall is often cold steel, making that gothic, dark fantasy setting give off a real steampunk prison vibe. And there are some frozen caverns housing a new enemy type, the Wendigo. These are Yeti creatures that shoot frost shards out at you that will ricochet off walls and can put an end to the player really fast. After hitting all the switches across the sublevels, you open up the final gate barring the hub's exit. However, if you were able to find the secret switches, you can access a secret stage, Bright Crucible. This one's just a self-contained map where you got a bunch of difficult enemies to kill as you search for the puzzle piece to unlock the map's exit. If you don't find this secret, you're not missing out on much, but you will be barred from any further secret maps. If you like the gameplay and want a challenge, this secret map is fine enough, but after getting through it, now let's move on to the next hub, Shadowwood.
My servants can smell your blood, human.
Shadowwood's hub is set in this rocky canyon with a booby-trapped fort to the west, a perilous cliffside, and a murky swamp, which houses the new enemy type we'll be encountering, the Stalker. These bastards lurk in shallow waters and pop out quickly to blast you and run. You really have to anticipate their surfacing if you want to hit them because they're gone fast. Maybe there's some optimized path through each sublevel that I'm unaware of. I didn't really route out my run, but I think you have to go through each sublevel at minimum twice if you know where you're going. The problem is, each map is designed to feed into another through various portals throughout each sublevel, and these maps are very, very open-ended with practically no linearity whatsoever. So oftentimes I'm like, alright, let's see where this portal goes. Oh, it's back to the Wastelands again. Yeah, I need to be in Darkmere, so I gotta do some backtracking now. What you want to do is run through each sublevel to get the key each houses, then run through them a second time to hit switches. The cave key was especially hard for me to find. It took me probably about an hour and a half of running around before I looked up a guide on where it is. That kind of killed this level for me on my first playthrough. You could even see where it was on the map, but you have to fall down this hole that's kind of hard to see in a corner in a dark cave room, so you have to fall down that hole to open up walls for you to get in the room. It's kind of stupid. You know you're finished with the sublevel when you check your map in the hub and there isn't any X marks on where the portal is. The only other way to tell is if you go towards the hub's exit gate, you can see you need to hit 2 switches from each sublevel, 6 in total for this hub. The secret map for this level is accessible after flipping all switches. You climb to the top of the central rock pillar and a wall opens up with a portal inside. This map, Sacred Grove, is pretty easy, honestly. It's very small, just one room with a pillar in the center. Ettins spawn in at regular intervals, and you need to kill them all quickly. After the room fills with too many, you'll be trapped as chaos serpents spawn in until you die. There is no escaping from this point. Best you can do is load your most recent save. But hey, just spam some powerful magic to make light work of the Ettins. There's plenty of mana to spare. After completing the challenge, the switch we flip mentions the Forsaken Outpost. which is the next secret map we'll be running through later on. For now, let's complete Shadowwood and move on to the boss map, Hypostyle. This map is like Winnowing Hall. Rather than either of the two hub-style levels we've played so far, no sub-levels here, just a few rooms with a quick challenge to beat, flip a switch to access the next room, then so on and so forth. These are all pretty straightforward. Just be ready, as you enter each room, you'll be launched forward as the door closes behind you. So the last two rooms I sit at the doorway to try and pick off as many Ettins or Centaurs as I can before entering to give myself an easier time. It can get overwhelming fast. Playing as the cleric and being surrounded is the last thing you want. You need a calm state of mind to focus on timing your shield just right. When you get to that final room, you find a pit of lava with a perimeter stationed with brown chaos serpents, while a wyvern flies around the room, and his fire spit attack is devastating. If you run through the left side, you can easily grab one of the fly guys to fly around the room while you use some magic to snipe the wyvern as you do your best to evade him. I really enjoyed this level. It was pretty challenging, yet short. This map certainly doesn't overstay its welcome. But now, let's move on to the third hub, Heresiarch Seminary.
Worship me, and I may yet be merciful. Then again, maybe not.
The third map is located in the Hall of Dark Arts, as we encounter yet another new foe, Heresiarch's disciples, known as the Dark Bishops. They're similar to the disciples of Heretic, except instead of attacking with a spread of 3 bolts, these Dark Bishops shoot energy waves out that spiral and slither towards you. I love playing as the mage against these guys because freezing them is so satisfying. This level's first half has 2 sub-levels you need to run through to gather a handful of gemstones to unlock the latter half. These 2 levels are fun, especially the Orchard of Lamentations. The atmosphere here is so nice thanks to all the fog. There are these poisonous mushrooms on the ground that release a toxic gas if you accidentally break them. I like the environment itself, the colors are nice. When you collect all the gemstones and place them in the wall where they belong, you unlock the second half of the map. 3 sub-levels known as chambers, each with 2 emblems to use as keys for progressing further into each sub-level, as well as a total of 9 switches to unlock the hub's exit. When you get here, now the centaurs from before are buffed for the rest of the game. Now they have a new attack where they hold up their shields and shoot this blue fireball your way. These do a lot of damage, and so playing as the mage here, hey, that's not too bad because you can easily spam them with your elven wand or use magic on them, but the cleric is going to have a real hard time timing these parries. Worst of all is the centaurs keep their shields up long enough to where even if you do reflect their fireball, it's just going to hit their shield and it doesn't do any damage to them. I don't have an issue with the centaurs before since their sword doesn't really do that much damage, so just get good with the shield and you're fine. But you kind of need to anticipate their hits. Their wind-up time is basically 1-to-1 with your wind-up on the shield. You only have like a fraction of a second for reaction time, just a tiny bit too early or too late, and you're gonna get owned. Well, now they have 2 attacks, and they don't even have the same wind-up time. I'm coming in to bait out a sword attack, but they choose the slower wind-up fireball, so I take a lot of damage because I couldn't time it properly, of course, and they spam these hits too. So it's pretty hard to reset so you can reflect subsequent attacks. Again, you're gonna get owned. They should have had their AI set up so they don't use this attack unless they're kind of far away. If that were the case, I would have loved this upgraded version of the centaurs, but the way it is just seems kind of not well designed. These sub-levels aren't really all that cryptic, especially the latter 3, and after completing them we return to the central hub where we encounter the boss, Heresiarch himself. This guy was the post-ending spoiler you get from completing Heretic. He was also originally intended to be the final boss of the game. This boss fight can be a little challenging, especially if you don't understand his tells. His moves are throwing out these molten bouncy balls that'll bounce all around the room, and they do massive damage when they sneak up behind you. He also has this purple flamethrower move similar to the bishops, and he also can summon more disciples to overwhelm you. He has these purple orbs that'll float around him from time to time. That represents he's got his force field up, and it'll reflect all projectiles back towards the player. I'm not sure if this also reflects melee attacks, meaning that they just don't do damage. It's hard to tell if I'm doing any damage to him when I whack him with my mace. You can hear sound cues, but it's a little hard to tell. Now's a good time to compare the three classes again, since they've all learned a few new moves since the game's beginning. Of course, with the Cleric, we've gotten the Serpent Staff, which shoots out green bullets that hone in on the target. This is good for picking off enemies from far away, so when you take on the hordes of beasts and demon head-on, you don't get overwhelmed too easily. Next up is his Firestorm spell, which it spits out this fiery beam that takes out large enemies quickly. I like using this on Chaos Serpent since they're a huge pain to use the shield tech on, but for most enemies, especially in areas where you can filter hordes down to taking on one at a time, the shield and mace is still your best option a majority of the time. Onto the fighter, you first get Timon's Axe, which is a melee weapon, but when you have mana to use, it deals extra ethereal damage. Following is the Hammer of Retribution. This is a warhammer that you can throw at your enemies to cave their skulls in from a distance. This thing is sick, and I like Timon's Axe, and you can still use both of these without mana, it just doesn't do the additional explosive splash damage. Lastly is the Mage. Aside from his Elven Wand, the Mage gets two spells. First, the Frost Shard spell, which shoots out spears of ice dealing good damage, especially to Afrits, but up close, it freezes enemies solid, which is very satisfying to do. Next up is the Arc of Death, which casts a lightning strike forward that hones in on enemies. This thing fucking owns! And it's also pretty fun to use to take down tankier enemies without getting up close and personal. The Cleric is fun for more challenge, but honestly, the Mage is pretty fun to play as well, and I'd recommend for your first playthrough, the Mage is probably the easiest. And man, turning these bastards to solid ice is so much fun. Freeze, motherfucker! Let's kick some ice! The secret map in this level, the Deathwind Chapel, it's okay. It feels kind of like a Heretic level, run around, hit a bunch of switches, but it kind of just leaves me with this, is that all? Pointless kind of feeling. It doesn't have any real climax, it just has you run through a few pathways, and the third one has an elixir, and then it's over. Time to backtrack to the portal you came in. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be long. The Shadowwood secret map, that one was really short, but it just had it had one challenge, and it felt concise when it was over with. You felt finality to it. With this one, it was just like, I'm scratching my head. It's over now? I had to look up to make sure I wasn't like missing a switch or anything. I don't know, there was no real good finality to it. Now that that's all over, time to move on to the fourth level, Castle of Grief.
You have played this game too long, mortal. I think I shall remove you from the board.
This stage is my favorite so far. The hub is pretty straightforward. I like to run around clearing the hub first before I explore into the sublevels. In Castle of Grief, you gotta run around clearing out an entire squadron of beasts, hitting switches. You got 4 cogs to collect to activate the clock room, which opens up progress throughout the castle. Clearing this hub, it can be a pain since there's so many of the super centaurs, and there's chaos serpents that are placed just low enough that they can target you, but it's difficult for you to hit them with spells. The Mage doesn't have it as hard of a time since the Arc of Death aggroes to mobs easier than the Cleric's Firestorm, and I imagine the Hammer of Retribution probably has an easier time with this as well. You can also shoot them from outside, but I didn't bother with that before entering the fortress as the Cleric, so I had a little bit of a hard time killing them. The hub levels themselves are pretty neat too. I just enjoy running through them. They feel a bit more linear. I don't find myself needing to do much backtracking to return to the hub to go to another sublevel. Shadowwood was really bad about that. Here, oftentimes whenever I'm ready to return to a sublevel, the one I'm currently in has a portal for me to get there. I think that might be due to having the entrance to the sewers sublevel is accessed from inside another sublevel, so it's just very convenient for the player. Shadowwood was not like that at all. I was often, okay, I'm done with this sublevel now, I gotta backtrack to the hub and go to the other one again. oh, I forgot to hit that switch, or I got the key to go back here now. Castle of Grief had none of that monkey business. The secret map of this level is the Desolate Garden. It has a pretty challenging switch game as the Chaos Serpents and Bishops snipe you from within the barracks. You need to quickly hit a series of switches that pop out of the ground all across the courtyard, each switch activating the next pop-up and spawning in a new beast. This can get overwhelming as you can scan the surface looking for where the next switch is. You can't take too long or else you'll fail the puzzle. Honestly, the challenge is pretty fun. Afterwards, you have to run through the barracks, clearing it out in order to get to the portal exit. This one was pretty fun, but it doesn't top the previous two. After finishing the hub, it's time to head back to the Gibbet sublevel where we find a throne. This is the boss room. There's waves of countless enemies to take care of. I found good use of the flechettes here. Afterwards is another encounter with the Heresiarch. It's the same fight as before, just do what you need to do to take him out. I use one of these Malatar summoning dolls to help me out, and after that's over, time to head to the final level, Necropolis.
Are you strong enough to face your own masters?
The fifth and final hub is by far the most difficult. The hub itself is a slaughterhouse. Set in a graveyard, the vibe is as eerie as ever. The new enemy type, the Reaver, is a flying torso that rockets fireballs your way, and they're fast too. This thing packs a punch, and Reavers are infinitely spawning, I'm pretty sure. I spent about 20 minutes or so trying to clear them out, but they kept spawning from the graves, so I think your best bet is just not waste time within the hub. Figure out where to go and get there fast. There's 3 sublevels, each with a different puzzle piece to unlock the exit. I enjoy all 3 of the sublevels here. They're pretty short, very linear, and very challenging. First one I did was Menelkir's Tomb. The map is a giant circle of various rooms, each requiring you to hit one of 4 switches. If you hit the correct one, you pass. If not, you have to fend off an ambush. Some rooms tell you the correct switch to hit, but others you just have to guess. When you get one correct, you can kind of use that to help you guess the next since they kind of go in this order. After hitting all the correct switches, you get to ascend into the resting grounds of the undead Menelkir. Your magic may be mighty, but the spirit of a cleric is mightier. Next, I head to Zedek's Tomb. This one I like. It has a bunch of centaurs guarding the puzzle switch. After picking them off one by one, you hit the switch and it shows you a pattern. You need to replicate it on another wall, and that grants you access to Zedek. If you fail, the ceiling crushes you. Zedek the legendary brute, you made one grave mistake. You brought steel gauntlets to a magic show? Die, scum! Lastly, I move on to Traductus' Tomb. This one houses dozens of bishops in an underground maze. After making your way through and hitting the 3 switches, Traductus awakens to face off against the hero. Ah! You thought you could use a level 3 spell on a level 99 wizard? You fool! Now that the 3 fallen rulers have been bested, it's time to move on to Korax, the ruler of all that is evil in Kronos. Did you think I skipped the secret level? No, I did it. There just isn't much to say. You need to get there before doing any of the 3 tombs, otherwise you get locked out of it. Which, I didn't really like that because every other one you do at the end. So, this, kind of a guide thing. Honestly, if you don't do it, you're not missing out on much. There's some enemies to kill, they respawn after a while. This is the most bland and uneventful secret mission of them all. There's like a little secret thing you can do if you turn yourself into a pig, and you can get some pickup bullcrap, but you can also just leave the level. I don't even know what they were thinking with this one. It's honestly a harder challenge and a more fun and engaging challenge actually getting from spawn to the secret level itself, because the hub is insane. But the actual secret level itself, you could really go without. Now, onto the final boss. This is just a gauntlet of killing a bunch of enemies. First, you have to kill like 50 Ettins, then you gotta kill like 50 centaurs. I've been hoarding lots of goodies to help me through this, so honestly, light work. Korax himself, kind of a pushover, especially with the ultimate weapon. Each class gets a different one. The Wraith Verge turns your left mouse click into a kill everything button. And those shrieks of pain, ooh, delightful. The fighter's ultimate weapon is a sword called Quietus, and it also kicks ass. A slash casts forth a wave of destruction of agony for all those who dare impede its path. And the mage's staff, the Blood Scourge, is probably the worst of the three, surprising enough. It still deals good damage to mow down hordes, just doesn't feel as satisfying as summoning lost souls to antagonize your enemies. But the Blood Scourge, it will turn legions of centaurs into piles of blood and bone dust within a matter of seconds. Hey, who could hate on that? The thing I always see people say about this game is, this is the Dark Souls of FPS, which, hey, I really enjoyed Hexen, but it certainly is no Dark Souls. And that's not even necessarily a criticism either. They're just two different things. Now, the two people I saw make this argument, I will say, had very bad justifications for this premise. The reasoning was that Dark Souls was not made to be enjoyable, rather it was designed to be rewarding, which is like, what are you talking about? The other reason I heard was that Hexen is super challenging, and also the Gothic art style, and it was designed to be confusing but rewarding, which again, what? I'm going to address these two takes, but first, I just need to say they don't do a good job at even understanding the premise they're trying to justify. So before I even address them specifically, I just want to define what actually makes something Dark Souls. Yes, Dark Souls has that dark fantasy, gothic style to it, but if FromSoft made a Souls-like that was set in like a cyberpunk futurist setting, well, that would still be Dark Souls, just with a different aesthetic. Or what if it were set in like an Eastern mythological setting, kind of like Black Myth Wukong? That could be a Dark Souls too. For something to be like Dark Souls, it needs corpse runs, bonfires, stamina management, and methodical combat. I can understand why someone would maybe think this is similar to Dark Souls from a glance, I guess, but if you really know anything about either this game or Dark Souls, I mean, they really aren't all that similar. When you die in Hexen, you just respawn where you saved last, and you can save whenever, wherever. In Dark Souls, you save at designated bonfires that refill your Estus flasks, they respawn encounters. In Dark Souls 1, you can also use them to level up at. That's not even a thing in Hexen at all. There is no leveling up. No checkpoints that reset encounters or refill your heals. Dying in Dark Souls is very punishing. You gotta run back to where you died and pick up your souls. In Hexen, you can save as much as you want, and the only punishment is having to redo everything since your last save. Oh no, I died. Time to go back like 60 seconds to the last time I saved. Now, the combat itself is also very different from Souls combat. Just because you're a guy swinging a weapon at like these monsters, it doesn't make this game Dark Souls. The Legend of Zelda, Kingdom Hearts, God of War, these games all have that kind of combat, right? Yet, they're all very different from each other, and none of them are Dark Souls. Zelda, I guess, is the closest, but like, it's also not Dark Souls. Dark Souls enemies also have very well telegraphed movement, so you know when to dodge roll, when to attack, when to parry, when to just disengage. In Hexen, every enemy has either 1 or 2 attacks, and they aren't telegraphed very well. The Ettins aren't too bad, but if you're playing as a cleric and you want to parry enemies, you really have to anticipate their attacks because they don't give you much wind-up for you to have any time to react. If you are just a fraction of a second too early or too late, they're going to hit you, and especially the centaurs. They'll repeatedly slice you up. When you go to parry and miss the timing, they're going to get a couple good hits in before you can get your parry in. The best bet is to just run away because it's very difficult to correct your timing with their rhythm. Your animation for pulling up your shield takes too long where you can't really react to their wind-up time. You just have to know it's coming. Now onto these justifications themselves. Now the idea that Dark Souls is not enjoyable but rewarding, I mean if you don't enjoy Dark Souls, whatever, that's fine. It's not for everyone, maybe it's not for you. But Dark Souls wasn't designed to be unenjoyable. The enjoyment isn't just from overcoming absurdly difficult challenge. The combat itself is very engaging and satisfying. That makes it enjoyable. Do people get bored of Dark Souls the second it stops being challenging for them? Certainly not, because how satisfying and engaging it is. When you master it and get insanely good at it, you only learn to love it on a deeper level. In that sense, it is sort of like Hexen. Blocking a hit and then one-shotting Ettins, especially a horde of them, getting them one after the other. Like, I'll use the geometry of the environment to funnel them into a single file line so I can take them out one by one. Shield, mace, shield, mace. That is very satisfying, but it's still not Dark Souls. That's not a criticism either. Both Dark Souls and Hexen are awesome games. I just think people kind of have a problem saying everything is Dark Souls. I mean, I remember years ago when people were saying Cuphead was like Dark Souls. Is SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Dark Souls? There's boss fights. You hit things with a weapon. When I was a kid, hey, it was pretty hard. Is Hurdy-Gurdy the hidden Dark Souls gem nobody knows about? Now that I think about it, life is kinda Dark Souls. It's not enjoyable. I wake up and go to work. I come home to sleep before I have to get up and go to work again. But at the end of the week, I get a little bit of money, and that's rewarding. It's not enjoyable, but it's rewarding. Every time I rest at a checkpoint, all my problems respawn, and death is very punishing. So, life itself is Dark Souls. After beating Hexen, there was a 3-level expansion titled Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. I started this expansion expecting increased challenge. In the first stage, the expansion stand-in for Winnowing Hall was pretty nice. I think it's fine enough to run through. It is linear, but with a lot of backtracking. You run through it, you gotta head back for a switch, go forward more, head back to the beginning, go back to the beginning, then you get to the end. It sounds bad, but the map is really small, and enemies keep spawning in, so it's not like it's just empty backtracking for no reason. It could be laid out a little bit better, but it's fine. I like it. It's fine enough. It's a good start. Moving on to the first hub, Blight. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be finishing this expansion. This map is kind of like Shadowwood. Kind of looks the same, same color style. But also, it's a really big, open hub with lots of annoying terrain. The sublevels are very expansive and open. You got to do a whole lot of backtracking and running around. And also, it used the infinite respawning enemies idea from Necropolis. That worked in Necropolis, because the hub was really small, and the infinitely respawning Reavers were only in the hub. Here, it's in the sub-level and the hub, and they're massive. They're massive maps, and they're really confusing I have no idea where to go. I'm running around, like, some of them I was able to make a little bit of progress, and then I hit a dead end. Okay, I guess I'll come back later, or I need a different portal into this sub-level somewhere else. Or I'll get to a point where, I need to find emblems. Well, I'm at a dead end, so I gotta find those emblems in another sub-level, and it's just so... Every time you spawn in, it's like you're surrounded by dozens of enemies already sniping you, and it's bullet hell from this jump. The thing is, with, like, bullet hell shoot-em-ups, there's no figuring out where to fucking go. It's like they're side-scrollers, or they're lateral scrollers. It's pretty clear. All it is just avoid the bullets. Hexen's expansion is a bullet hell where you have to fucking solve the terrain. Like, imagine bullet hell in Tomb Raider. That would fucking suck. But at least, even if that were a thing, you probably would clear the room out, and then you can breathe to look around and figure out where to go. Here, no. You're fucked from the jump, and you know the funny thing? a lot of these like forums that give you guides and walkthroughs are blank for the expansion. I wonder why. You know, I'll play the map, I'll try to figure out where to go. Whenever I've hit a bunch of dead ends and I don't know what to do now, then I'll look up a guide. Okay, what am I missing? Oh, okay, I gotta do this stupid little thing to allow me to progress. I had to do that once or twice in the base game. Here I can't even do that. I'm just fucked. I could play on an easier difficulty and figure it out first. I could play as the mage because the mage is just easier to play as. Or the expansion itself could just be good. You know? The base game, it makes the issues with the base game glaring here. In the base game, yes, the combat is the same thing. But that's okay because you can deal with it. You know, the centaurs, they attack you too fast. The shield wind-up's not quick enough, so that's kind of bad design. But it's okay because it's manageable. And when you get to the wyvern, okay, well you have you have a fire spit or firestorm by then. So, and you can fly around, so it makes it easier. It's manageable. You have the tools to deal with it. Here, no. Bullet hell, figure out where the fuck to go on your own, and we're not going to give you the tools. It makes, like, even the serpent staff, I thought it was good. Now, playing in the expansion, I realize, no, it actually kind of fucking sucks. It's just that the base game's easy, and the expansion is fucking insane. So, yeah, I don't want to play through it. So, I'm going to skip it for now. If you guys really want to see me suffer through the expansion, I guess I'd give it a go, but for now, I'm good on that. If you want me to do this expansion, I better be seeing some hype points, comments asking for it. This video better get a bunch of likes. If not, I'm just going to move on to something that's fun that I want to do. So, Hexen is fun to play. Check it out if you want to. Fuck the expansion. Peace.